On the majority of PCP air rifles, the air enters from the main air reservoir into the outlet valve through a central hole. And then, when the hammer strikes the end of the outlet valve, it simply knocks the valve open and does nothing more than that lets the air flow around it and up and out of the transfer port. And this is a very simple system. Now, for the majority of you, this will not cause any problems at all. However, I've now had a number of cases where people have tried to run the regulator at a very low pressure without making other alterations, and this has caused a serious issue. Now, this starts when someone thinks that they're going to run their gun at, say, 70 or 80 bar, and that they don't want to enlarge the transfer port. This isn't possible, because if you've got a hole this big, you can only get so much air through it. If you've got a hole that big, you can get a hell of a lot more through. And so if you're running your regulator at only 80 bar or below, you need an enlarged transfer port. Now, these people haven't realised this and decided to stick with the original small port. So what has happened is, and here's one I made earlier, there is your outlet valve, and to try and get the power up, because they can't get anywhere near what they want, they make the hammer hit the end of the valve harder and harder and harder, and obviously it has no increase at all for two reasons. One, because the transfer port's not big enough, and secondly, as you'll see, as the valve opens further and further and further, the gap between the coils of the spring close up, and so more air cannot pass through the valve because you're shutting the hole that it's coming through, and so this hole just becomes completely closed off. So by increasing the hammer force, you think that you're going to knock the valve open and get more air coming through it, but you're doing exactly the opposite. You're getting the valve knocked open and it's closing the hole from the main air reservoir chamber. So if you're going to run your regulator at a low pressure, it is absolutely vital that you increase the size of the transfer port. In the worst case scenario, if someone screws the hammer up that hard, especially on this is obviously a model I've made up for this video, but some valve stems are made thinner in the middle like this, and in cases like that, people have screwed it up that much that when it's hit home and stopped dead, you've ended up bending the valve spool, and then obviously when it comes back it doesn't sit down and it just leaks. And so please, if we've told you that you need to enlarge the transfer port to a bigger size because you're running your regulator to low pressure, this is definitely something you need to do to avoid damaging the valve assembly. Before I end this video, I ought to point out that this has only happened on 2 or 3 occasions in the last couple of years, and it has also only happened as a result of the customer for some reason doing other modifications to his airgun, such as fitting an extra long valve stem which sticks out further than the normal stem, which would probably only say stick to just here, because on most air guns, when the hammer hits the end of the valve stem, you could actually push the valve stem in further than the hammer can possibly travel by a few millimeters, and so this is only ever liable to happen if you've fitted an extra long stem, because on most cases the metalwork of the valve housing would say come to just here, and the valve stem only sticks out a few millimeters. So unless you've decided to fit a valve stem that comes all the way out here for some reason, then there isn't much chance of this happening to you. But just let it be a warning that if you or any of your friends want to fit the regulator at a low pressure to try and get as many shots as possible, then please make sure that you definitely enlarge the transfer port.